It's a wonderful time in the calendar. There's a fellow in my office who used to be an atheist, became a Jew. I asked him, why did he become a Jew? And he said, there were no holidays. It's atheist. So today, if you go wherever you go, I mean, I don't know if you saw Yeshiva World, you saw the pictures of Jared and Ivanka walking with a lulav and Esther. Do you see those pictures? You saw the pictures in Yeshiva World, walking outside from their home in, I think they live, I'm not sure they live in Washington. Where they live? Washington. Not Washington, I know that. So they walked from their house all the way to the Chabad house, carrying lulav and Esther. The whole world saw. The whole world saw the first item holding the lulav and Esther. But I don't know if you pay close attention. Did you see? Am I the only one who saw this picture? And you and me? You saw the picture. The only thing you noticed, they saw his Esther box to Kavach Chabad. Now poor Jared is probably the only guy who Shver forgot to buy him a silver Esther Mishkan. New York Times gets a hold of that, I'm sure he promised it, one of the unfulfilled campaign promises, he didn't buy him a silver Esther Mishkan. Some guy in my office, there's a guy who works in the mailroom, a black guy, came to me, he says, outside, he's some Hasidic Jew, came over to him holding this big asparagus and a lemon. And asked him if he was Jewish. Outside my office on 56th Street, I have to go to my office a few hours today, on 56th Street corner, Madison Avenue, right outside Trump Tower, there is a Chabad, a little, little low platform truck with a mobile sukkah, asking all the people to come out to bench lulav. It's such a Kiddush Hashem. All the Chinese, all the Japanese, everyone is benching lulav and esrei. It's true, right? We don't get the opportunity to say this often enough, although we do feel it. We don't necessarily all express it all the time. But the first Mishnah in Masechta Sukkah, tells us that a Sukkah a Sukkah that's taller than 20 amas is possible. Why? So the Gemara in Sukkah and Beis and Aleph brings three reasons. The first reason that the Gemara brings is Rabbi's reason that it's possible if it's 20 amas high, it's possible to loishol to be'einei, because people don't see it. It's too high. People don't recognize that it's a Sukkah, and therefore says Rabbah that that's why it is possible. It's interesting because in a famous vod that Rav Yitzchak Hutner Zatzal once shared, he once compared the job of a rabbi, I should say, the rabbi of a shul, to that of an old town clock. You ever seen the old town clocks? The old town clocks, where do they put the old town clocks? Invariably, they put it on the top of the tower. At the top of the watchtower, that's where they put the clock. Why did they put the clock? So they put the clock there so that everybody should be able to see it. Shishol to be'einai, because otherwise, if it's too low, nobody will see it. It's very high, so they put it on the town clock. So Rav Hutner said, yes, that is a reason why they did it, but there's another reason, he explained. The reason why they put the town clock on the watchtower is because when people from the town would walk by and they would compare their time on their watch to the town clock, they would look and they see it's not the same time. So what would they do? They would go to the watchtower and they would change the time to match the time on their watch, right? Everybody would do that. So in order that not everyone should do that, they made the tower high and they put the watch on the tower. Why? So that when everyone notices the time on their watch and sees that it's different from the tower, they don't adjust the time on the tower, they adjust their own watches. He said the job of a rabbi is very similar. The rabbi's job is to be a watchtower. When people see that somehow their time is different from the rabbi's time, they just shouldn't try to adjust the rabbi's clock. The rabbi, you're not in sync with mine, I've got to change your clock. The rabbi has to be high enough, he has to be tall enough, he has to be great enough that somehow the mispalim are inspired to say, you know what, maybe I should be changing my own clock. And Baruch Hashem, for the time, and I should say, relatively speaking, in the short time that the Rav has been here, he has earned that stature where people look up to the Rav. It's shol to be'einai, they look up, and to be able to say, you know what, maybe I should start adjusting my time adjusting my priorities, adjusting my values, adjusting what it is that's important, and let me see how the Rav does it. And the Rav speaks to us the truth. The Rav's job is not to be a politician. His job is not to be one of the boys. His job is to really just tell us the truth. The whole truth and nothing but the truth, just the way it is. And if it happens to be machlokes every time, that's okay too. That's okay too. Now, tonight we celebrate our version of Simchas Beis HaShoeivah. So what was Simchas Beis HaShoeivah? Growing up, and maybe for even now, this is Simchas Beis HaShoeivah. These are one of the real holidays of the year that really, we sort of know what it's about, but we can't really put our finger on it. Something to do that the Jews were very happy that they drew the water, right? This was something special. Something so special that 2,000 years later we're still doing it. So it's a Mishnah, it's none other than a Mishnah. And the Mishnah starts, well, you know this Mishnah, but let's remember and review because it should be fresh. The Mishnah starts, Mi shel ira simchas beis HaShoeivah v'ira simcha v'yamav, full stop. If you didn't see the way they partied at a Simchas Beis HaShoeivah, you never saw Simcha, you never had Simcha in your life. That is an absolute statement that requires us to ask why. Why? And you know, the Mishnah continues, Chasidim v'anshe Maisa ha'meraktim b'fneim. You couldn't just dance. The rabbis, the leaders of the community danced. Be'avuka sha'or shev yodeim. They danced with torches, which they flung up in the air. And Rashi says, what do? They threw them upwards, heavenwards. Then they caught them. They would, in our parlance, they would juggle. The rabbis would juggle. Now, it seems to be, okay, the Mishnah said that they juggled, but the Gemara makes a point and goes on and tells us two daf and later daf nun gimel the following. Tanya, Omar Allah Rab Shimon Gamliel, he was the Nasi, he was the Chav Chaim Kanievsky in his generation, but only 100 million times greater. What did he do? Basically, he would juggle. Okay, but then the Gemara doesn't stop. The Gemara continues. The Gemara says, Vaita Levi, the great Levi, the Rebbe. Rebbe was the Aruda Nosi. Rashi says he was worried with all the tzara of Klal Yisrael. He was so worried to cheer him up. Levi would juggle to be some him. With what? The Tamne Sekina, with 8 knives. Shmuel, the Gemara's not finished. Kamei Shmumarka, the king of Persia. Shmuel would juggle with Tamne Mazge Chamra with 8 cases of wine. The Gemara's not finished. Abaya, Kamei, the rabbi, the Gersa is Betamne Bey, he would juggle 8. So what's this whole thing of juggling? What's this whole thing of juggling? Nicht getanzt, nicht gesucht teure. Big simcha that they all juggle. And they all made it a point to juggle. There were no illusionists. No rabbi said, listen, I'll show you a new trick. I'll show you a magic trick. I'll show you an illusion. No rabbi was a trapeze artist. The circus. They all juggled. I once heard, I don't know if you heard the story. There's a story of juggling. They spoke about juggling. There was a guy, he was stopped on the Palisades Parkway. He was going to a chasana in the, what's a chasana hall in Muncie? Atrium. So he's going to Atrium. So he gets stopped over by a New Jersey state trooper. He puts him over for speeding. Why? The guy was late for a chasana. He was late for a chasana. And the state trooper notices as he's talking, riding out the speed trigger, he noticed the guy has 8 machetes in the back seat. The guy has 8 machetes. The cop he touched his holster, and he says, what's that? So the guy explained to him that he's going to a chasana, and his role always is he's a juggler. And he juggles to be Mesamech the Chassan V'Kala. So the state trooper wasn't sure whether this would believe him or not. So he told him, you know what, get out of the car. I'm not sure to believe you, but if you can juggle that, I'll let you go without a ticket. Because he said he's late, there was traffic on the. So he starts to juggle the 8 machetes right down the Palisades Parkway. Meanwhile, on the other, coming from the back, there's a guy who's a Goya Shikir. He's watching this and he sees this guy on the side of the road juggling machetes. He immediately pulls over behind the police car, gets out of his car, walks towards the police car, opens up the back seat of the police car, and sits himself in. And the cop goes over to him. He says, "What do you think you're doing?" He says, "I don't know what's going on here, but if this is your new test to check on sobriety, then you might as well lock me up now." So, but there's something about juggling. So what's this Indian about juggling? Maybe, and one of the answers that is offered, that I think is important, and it resonated with me. What's trap when a person juggles? When a person juggles, he's got one ball in his hand, he's got one torch in his hand, and the other one he lets go. He throws up, and he got two up in the air, he got three up in the air, depending on how good he is. But the point of a juggler is that you can't have all the balls in your own hands. If you have all the balls in your own hands, you're not a juggler. The juggler is someone who takes something and throws it up. So he doesn't have all his hands loaded with the torch, the knife, the machete, whatever it is. The truth is in life we're all jugglers. We all have today in our society especially, we have so many things going on in our lives. We have to deal with our family, we have to deal with our wives, and many of us have to deal with our children, and there are issues, and you have issues perhaps with school, and you have issues with your job. You got to juggle that responsibility. We have health issues. We have so many things going on in our life. And while it's true that in life, my father used to say, and perhaps your father used to tell you as well, my father used to say, when he's told me, he says, you know, you have to train to be able to get a job. He says, "Medav hum epis in the hand."